Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're wading into some pretty deep waters concerning American history. Specifically, the Treaty of Paris, 1783.
Yeah, the one everyone learns about.
Exactly. But if you've ever had that little nagging feeling, that maybe the official story isn't quite the whole story, well, this deep dive is definitely for you. Because the sources we're looking at today, they don't just question the narrative. They pretty much throw it out the window. They really do. I mean, the standard take is clear. Treaty of Paris equals American independence. Done deal.
Right. But this material, it flips that completely. It argues that 1783 wasn't the end of control, but actually, a very clever reorganization of it.
So our mission today, just to be clear, is to lay out what this specific, pretty esoteric source claims. We're not endorsing it, just exploring the ideas.
Absolutely. We're just distilling the claims. And the core claim is that this treaty is essentially the founding corporate charter for something they call the American Penitentiary.
Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, right off the bat, that terminology. Corporate charter, penitentiary. That's deliberately provocative language.
It is. Corporate charter implies ownership, finance, legal structure, and penitentiary. Well, that implies confinement, doesn't it?
It really does. And for those claims to hold any water, the source has to argue that the whole American Revolution wasn't what we think it was.
That's exactly where it starts. The source basically says the Revolutionary War was, and this is their phrase, a great theatrical performance.
A performance, like staged.
Pretty much. Like a necessary drama played out for the public. They even have this metaphor for it.
Yeah.
They call the whole thing the In the Pen dance, with pen meaning penitentiary.
In the pen dance.
Yeah.
Wow. So the fighting, the declarations, it was all just a show to cover up the legal maneuvering happening underneath.
That's the core argument. It wasn't about actually breaking free. It was about setting up the legal framework for a new kind of management structure.
Let's stick with that word, penitentiary, for a second. Such a loaded term for a republic. What kind of confinement are they actually talking about here? It's not literal prisons, is it?
No, not physical walls and bars, according to this source. It's more systemic. Think economic constraints, legal statuses, debt cycles, resource control, a way to manage the population.
So if the treaty is the charter, the people become, what? Assets. Human capital for this corporation.
That's essentially the idea, yeah. A system where people think they're free, but their labor, their assets, their very legal standing is leveraged by this hidden corporate entity.
So the treaty's real job, then, was to nail down legal control over the continent's resources, both human and, geographic, while putting up this big freedom sign out front.
Exactly. And that illusion, that veneer of separation, was apparently crucial. According to the source, it was how the elites established their second pillar of control.
Second pillar. Well, what was the first? Or does it matter?
It matters in their framework, but the key here is the second pillar was achieved by creating this false duality.
Duality.
Meaning the old world monarchy, represented by the UK, versus the New World Republic, the USA, setting them up as opposites, rivals on the world stage.
Ah, okay. So you create these two seemingly opposed powers. But according to this source, they're actually operating under the same hidden management, like playing chess against yourself.
Precisely. It's framed as the ultimate game. The source talks about a heads versus tails strategy.
Heads versus tails. Like a coin flip.
Yeah, but where the elites own both sides of the coin, so whichever way public attention or power seems to shift, UK or USA, they still control the outcome. They always win the game.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if they own both sides, the UK and the USA,
right,
that implies that all the big geopolitical stuff between them, the conflicts, the trade deals, the finance, it was all basically internal company business, just played out publicly.
That's the deep implication, yeah. It lets the players, as the source calls them, control the narrative, control the money flow. If the UK does something unpopular, the US can step in looking like the good guy.
While both are just following the same long-term corporate plan. Wow. Okay.
The game isn't about nations winning, it's about the players controlling the whole board.
Okay, but hang on. For this to be more than just like a wild conspiracy theory, there has to be some proof in the actual document, right? In the treaty itself.
That's the linchpin of their argument.
How could a secret that big stay hidden in a legal document for over 2 centuries? especially that document.
Well, the source argues it's hidden in plain sight. It's supposedly achieved using very specific, almost archaic legal jargon, and maybe even embedded ciphers or codes within the text.
Ciphers, like actual codes.
Textual keys, yeah.
Oh.
Things that only make sense if you're initiated into the, let's say, true meaning of certain corporate and royal titles used in the document. The public reads independence, but the legal reality, the source claims, is locked in that specific language.
So the proof isn't buried. It's woven into the words themselves, just needing decryption. Which brings us to the absolute core claim, the most shocking part of this whole thing. What is the literal phrase? The esoteric truth that this decryption supposedly reveals. According to the source, when you decode it, the treaty effectively states, King of England is Prince of U.S. Whoa. Okay. King of England is Prince of U.S.
Yeah.
Just a few words. The legal whiplash from that is huge. It completely reverses the standard understanding. The king didn't lose the colonies. He just changed the management structure.
That's exactly it. And the source really digs into the specific legal weight of those titles, king and prince, within this alleged corporate system.
So how did they define King of England in this context? It's not just the guy wearing the crown.
Apparently not just that. In this framework, the King of England isn't merely the head of state for Great Britain. He's positioned as the ringmaster, the high steward of something called the Crown Corporation.
Ringmaster. Okay, that's more theatrical language. Why that specific term? And the Crown Corporation. Not just the crown.
Right. The distinction seems critical. The ringmaster leads a private, sovereign entity. The Crown Corporation, which this source claims is the real power, operating sort of behind or above the public government.
So the Crown Corporation is the ultimate parent company, hidden from view. And the king is its public face, its CEO or chairman?
Something like that. The public representative of a much deeper, primarily financial power structure centered in London.
Okay, so if the king is the ringmaster of the parent corp, what did that make the Prince of U.S.?
Well, think about it. What is a prince? By definition, a prince is subordinate, right? Answers to a king.
Yeah, rules a territory but owes allegiance higher up.
Exactly. So if the treaty establishes the King of England as the superior and the ruler of the U.S. as a prince, it locks in a chain of command.
It makes the U.S. a subsidiary, a branch office.
Or, as the source bluntly puts it, a vassal state. The prince holds temporary delegated authority, always answering back to the ringmaster.
So the very moment that treaty was signed, according to this interpretation, the United States was legally and symbolically established not as an equal sovereign nation,
Nope.
but as a subordinate entity, a vassal state tied to the real power center, which was still firmly planted in London.
That's the claimed consequence of that hidden clause.
Yeah.
And that, they argue, is the hidden legal foundation for the whole penitentiary system. It explains how control could continue seamlessly.
And the visible structure of the U.S. government, Congress, the courts, the president.
That's all seen as necessary window dressing, a very effective distraction, actually.
So the president, in this view, isn't the ultimate authority figure at all.
No. More like a temporary CEO,
Yeah.
a public face, someone to manage the day-to-day and, crucially, keep the pawns, the general population, focused on the political drama here.
While the real hereditary authority, the ringmaster, stays safely across the ocean, completely insulated from democratic processes or accountability.
The hereditary line remains intact, and the ultimate authority defined by that alleged clause, king, is prince's superior, means everything the U.S. government does is technically under that original corporate framework from 1783.
You know, the more we dig into this source, the more it paints everything as deliberate. Nothing left to chance. Like even the location of the signing.
Yes, Paris.
The source makes a point of saying it's no coincidence it happened in Paris. What's the significance there, according to this view? Why Paris?
Well, in this kind of esoteric literature, Paris often gets tagged as the keeper of the memory.
Keeper of the memory. What does that mean?
It's presented as this ancient, designated neutral ground, a place with historical weights, specifically chosen over centuries by the world's players, the elites, to formalize their biggest, most foundational agreements, their long-term plans.
So signing it there wasn't just convenient diplomacy. It added this layer of, like, ritual significance, making it part of a larger, ongoing system.
That's the idea. Treaties signed in Paris in this context aren't just ending wars or settling disputes. They're seen as documents that formally define the next cycle of elite control.
A cycle.
Yeah, like setting the rules, the boundaries, the financial structures for the next phase of the game. The Treaty of Paris specifically set the terms for the American cycle, the operating rules for this particular, very valuable subsidiary.
So you had this huge public celebration, independence, freedom, a new nation. But underneath the real action, the source claims, was this complex legal maneuver. The ultimate deception wasn't hiding a document. It was getting everyone to focus on the Declaration of Freedom.
Right.
While the actual contract of servitude, the fine print establishing the vassal relationship, was slipped right into the diplomatic language that nobody really pores over.
Exactly. The complexity, the jargon, the assumed meanings of titles, that's where the secrecy lies, according to the source. Not physically hidden, but hidden semantically. You need the key, the specific legal or esoteric understanding, to see the true structure.
Okay, so we spent this time looking at how this particular source reinterprets a cornerstone of American history. Not freedom, but a really sophisticated blueprint for ongoing corporate control.
Yeah, it takes that moment of apparent triumph and flips it into this act of legal capture, using titles and language as the chains, basically.
So what does this all mean if we synthesize this view?
Well, the source concludes this was a masterstroke, an act of political alchemy, they call it.
Alchemy, turning lead into gold.
Metaphorically, yeah. They argue this is where the elites perfected their system, put the finishing touches on their perfectly balanced game board.
Balanced by having these two major powers, the monarchy and the republic, seemingly in opposition.
But secretly controlled by the same ringmasters. That structure, that duality, ensured the underlying control mechanism would survive no matter what happened publicly, which flag was waved.
It really forces you, the listener, to think about how historical narratives get cemented, doesn't it? And what might be lurking in the details we usually gloss over.
Absolutely. It challenges you to look past the headlines, past the simple stories, and maybe, just maybe, question the fine print of history itself.
Which leads to a final thought, something based on this material for you to chew on. If this source is right, and the Ruse of Independence worked by creating a false duality UK versus USA that the ringmasters controlled from behind the scenes, makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other major historical rivalries, political, economic, maybe even cultural, could the players of this game also be managing right now just to keep that perfectly balanced board in play? Something to think about next time you look at any foundational document or long-standing conflict.